friends, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be me discussing the books that I read in the month of January. Let's just hop into it because I got some arcs for all of y'all. I got a non-fiction book, I got a continuation of a series, and I got a short story. So we got some variety here. But let's get into it. So let's start off with the two arcs that I received. So both of these arcs are from Penguin Teen, so thank you so much to Penguin Teen for giving me these arcs. But these both come out in February, so you have plenty of time to get your hands on them now. But the first book that I'm going to talk about is an arc that I received, and that is This One's For You by Gloria Sweeney. This comes out February 7th, I believe. So YA contemporary novel following these two perspectives. Cass, who is kind of like, he and his dad don't talk about his mom very much. His mom died in a car accident when he was like a baby, like a year old if that, because she was driving home from a concert of hers and she got in a car accident and died. They don't discuss that. They live kind of a little bit of distant lives, and while his dad thinks he's going to school for engineering, Cass is low-key wanting to go to school for music and has a big secret. He has been playing at the BART station in San Francisco. He's been playing music at the BART station for San Francisco and has low-key been, like, I guess, like, spotted, discovered. Sid used to be his best friend growing up. They had a falling out, and she is basically like her family's disappointment. She got this beautiful internship to work at this music record, like a theater, where she gets to do like all the sound work and everything, and she just has a passion for music, but her mom doesn't want that. Now the two of them come together on graduation day when they run into each other, and Cass finds out that his mom's old band is actually performing like their last like farewell tour, and these two will hop in like a car together and follow this band through like, I think, like, it makes me happy because I'm from here, Reno, Salt Lake City, San Francisco, Austin, New Orleans, and just kind of like travels down that road all the way back up. And it's like a week-long kind of situation where they're both like starting to like butt heads and get closer together as friends, maybe something more, while also figuring out more about themselves as they get along. Trigger warnings for this: there is parental death as we discussed it, there's underage drinking, smoking, drug use, running away, I guess, if that's a thing when they're both 18. Discussions of like drunk driving, car accidents. I think that's all the trigger warnings that I can remember off the top of my head. I ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy this. It was a very fun and interesting read to see both Cass and Sid learn more and more about themselves as they continue down this line. We learned that they're both kind of not standing up to the parents in the way that they need to become their own people. It's almost like a miscommunication trope as to why they stopped talking, but then also it's very much like just not understanding each other as to why they stopped talking. As friends, I can't really talk much without giving away spoilers, but it's kind of along those lines. But we get to see them kind of like learn more about themselves and find out that they need to take the risk that they need to take to become their own person, and they have to stand up to their parents in order to become their own people, and it's just an entire thing. The only reason I docked it the 0.5 was more so that there were two instances. One, I felt like the romance was unnecessary. I think they felt more organic and more believable as just platonic friends and friends who fell apart and are now coming together because of the situation. Just really good friends, and I preferred it that way because you don't lose anything if they were friends, or like you didn't like gain anything because they were romantically implied to get together at the end, but you don't lose anything if you just take away that romance aspect. I think the book stood really well if they were just two friends. The other thing is that the reason for them not talking never got discussed about after the fact. We get to learn why Sid felt like they stopped talking, because Cass wanted to be because Cass wanted to be one way, and on the other hand, Cass felt like they stopped talking because all Sid made him do was feel bad for wanting to do things that he liked to do. So it's just kind of like all over the place. It's I felt like in order for them to have, like, for me, if I wanted them to be romantic, which I was like, they look fine romantically, but I just want them platonic. If I wanted them to work out romantically, I would have wanted them to sit down and actually discuss, like, to have an actual conversation about the fact that Sid felt hurt by Cass wanting to do one thing, but Cass was constantly hurt by Sid's actions and thoughts and all these things. So that was the only reason why I gave it that, like, that 0.5 dock. But I really did enjoy the story. It's a nice little coming of age, and I recommend it to maybe like definitely like that like little bit of like the older YA crowd where you're like graduating high school, maybe like you're in the middle of your freshman year of college and you're just feeling a little lost, little against the grain of like what you wanted to do versus what mom and dad, or mom dad separately, or what your moms or your dads want to do, or your parents want to do. Highly recommend it if that's the case. I just wish there wasn't a romance, because I don't think books always need romance. The next arc is When You Wish Upon a Lantern by Gloria Chow. This is a YA contemporary novel. This follows two childhood best friends, Leah and Kai. The two of them were inseparable, loved each other so much, and were starting to spark romantic feelings in there until, and this is all in caps in the like synopsis, where the big incident that caused the biggest misunderstanding of all happened, and they stopped talking for about like 6 or 7 months, I think. With Leah's family business, When You Wish Upon a Lantern, starts to fall apart, she takes it upon herself to do the one thing that she and her now deceased grandma used to do for fun, and that was help people's like lantern wishes come true, which then brought more revenue into the thing, blah 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 blah. She then enlists the help of Kai, who wants to like kind of spark that friendship back up again, and they go on this like little adventure to figure out how to fix this, what to do, all that stuff. Trigger warnings for this one: there is like some, not like emotional neglect, but a little bit of emotional neglect. We got kind of like a near abusive older brother. He's just a dumbass and I want to punch him. If that's like really tense sibling relationships, we got like discussions and death of a very beloved grandmother. We got discussions of bankruptcy. I think that's it. I ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy this book. It was very fun, very lighthearted. I think that this was just like the right thing to sort of like bring me out of my reading slump, because like I said, it was fun, it was lighthearted. We get to see some like growing up, like I guess pains with parents, not with Kai wanting to become the leader of like the bakery that his family owns, but then learning that this might be limiting to himself. With Leah trying to help her family and feeling kind of left out because her family has been keeping the secret from her, and realizing she doesn't really have a lot of things that she likes to do outside of the store. On top of that, all of Kai and Leah's budding feelings for each other, and them putting that on pause for the sake of the store, for the sake of the big misunderstanding, which was just like, it was a very weird misunderstanding, and I'll explain why I gave it the 4.5 and not the full 5. So part of that was because of the big misunderstanding ever. I legit sat there and was like, listen, if I had done that to my best friend while they were like asking me a very serious question, there would have been a discussion after. I would have not just like let it slide. Same thing with if I was asking my best friend something and that happened to me, I'd be like, so what about my question? When everything's kind of like calmed a little bit. I also felt like Leah read really, 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 really young. Like, I forgot that these guys are like near graduating high school. Kai and Leah are 17 years old. They are now beginning to plan their futures and figure out what they want to do with their lives. But Leah read like she was probably like 14 or 15, still very young, still like kind of like getting the hang of her limbs, almost, as like a term like I guess I can use, where she just like doesn't really know how to like focus her energy or anything. She's just all over the place, very still youthful and not nearly as focused, whereas Kai seems more his age. He seems 17 years old. So that was kind of where like the discrepancy that I had going to the book, was that Leah was just very, very young and very, very naive and immature to be a 17-year-old who's about to like start applying to colleges and take the SATs and to worry about her AP scores and all that stuff. She just read so much younger than she actually should have been, and I felt like a lot of like the gravity of what was going on with the store, what she was trying to do, was kind of lost because she still read so young. So very, very young. But other than that, I did think it was a very fun, another coming of age novel. I think that I already said it, but this comes out on the 14th, so you guys will have time to pick it up. And it's a good, like, I think a cute little quick Valentine's Day kind of rom-com scenario. But again, she read very young. Like, I was like, oh, she's like super young. She has to be like 15 or like 14 to try and like do these things and not, you know, like not have the time and energy to like focus on schoolwork. And then they were like, oh yeah, no, we're 17. We're going to graduate next year. And I'm like, what? But highly recommend if you guys haven't picked it up yet. It's a very good read and it's very fun, very lighthearted. I think a nice thing to kind of get us all out of this weird, annoying, cold thing most of like North America is going through. Like, my friend in Minnesota ended up with a bunch of snow on the ground. My friends in California woke up and it was like negative something. Granted, it's like North California by the mountains. I woke up and it was like 8 degrees outside, and I'm just like, I'm tired of the snow. I'm tired of it. I'm tired. Moving on to the last read that I read for the month, and that is Galatea by Madeline Miller. This was actually published a long time ago. I think Madeline Miller said she was in the middle of I think Madeline Miller said she was in the middle of writing Circe when she came up with the concept for this short story. It's literally like maybe like 100, not even it's like 56 pages. 50 pages without the acknowledgments. But this is an adult retelling of the Galatea like myth or story. And if you guys don't know what that story is about, this follows like the original set myth of Galatea. She didn't even have a name in the original myth. Is following a king and a sculptor named Pygmalion. He can't find the woman of his dreams, so he sculpts her out of stone, I believe is what happened. It says stone, but somewhere in my brain is like thinks he sculpted her out of clay, whatever. Sculpt her from stone and then like asked the gods to bring her to life. And so they brought her to life, and it kind of picks up several years down the line after they get married and have children, and Galatea is a prison of her own four walls because she wants freedom, and all Pygmalion wanted was a pretty woman to look at and have. Trigger warnings, there is like, I guess like there is death, there's a lot of like emotional abuse in this one, I guess entrapment. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy it. I like seeing this continuation of Galatea's story. I like to see her personality. I liked that even though a lot of things happened to Galatea as a woman in Greek mythology, she still had her own voice, she still had her own actions and things that she kind of used to maneuver this very patriarchal society where women were just toys and things to be idolized and fetishized over, and not actual people with feelings and thoughts and emotions and ideas and opinions. You know, all those things. I really enjoyed that bit. The only thing that I have to say is that this book, the only thing that clipped me from giving it the 5 that I wanted to give it is that it's very short. It is only 50 pages, as I said, and I feel like had Madeline Miller been given, like, expanded this short story a little bit more, maybe made it like into like a novella or something, I would have liked to have seen it span those years, because I felt like the Galatea was just explaining to us what happened the past years that she's been with Pygmalion, and then we get to the nitty gritty of it in the last like maybe quarter of the book. But I really enjoyed it. Again, my issue so far with like some of like the Greek myth retellings I've read is that when you give a voice to women, I feel like the authors don't give them that kind of like voice, that like spunk that I was expecting. But Madeline Miller does, and even in the 50 pages that we got of Galatea, there was so much to flesh out about her character and her motivations and just everything about the heart of this girl. Like, she really leapt out of the pages for me. But again, it was just short, which is where I don't think it'll be very rare for me to give a novella a 5 all the time, because it's just short and I want more. I'm a chunky book girl. Let's just leave it there. But I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it if you have read Madeline Miller's Circe and Song of Achilles. It's a quick and easy read to get through, and I love Madeline Miller as an author, so we can't go wrong with her in this little apartment. The second to last book I read in January, or I guess started in December and finished in January because I read it in the middle of the holiday, like 2 weeks, and that is Shadow Kiss by Richelle Mead. If you guys haven't been following me for a little bit, or if you're new, I am reading through the entire Vampire Academy series, and I am vlogging the experience, and I had a vlog of my third book, so I will leave that video linked down below for y'all. But this is the third book in the Vampire Academy's series, following Rose Hathaway, who is a Dhampir, which means she's half vampire, half human. And because she is this half and half, she is part of a race of people who are set to protect the Moroi, who are the physical, like real life, like vampires that we see, and are full-fledged vampires, and the royalty and the people that they have to protect. She is like set to protect her best friend Lissa. But because of the events previous to the first book, like prequeling the first book, I should say, they end up running away from the academy where they're all basically like raised and like taught how to be vampires and all that stuff. And the two of them end up running away for 2 years and hiding out, and they're brought back to the academy at the beginning of the first book after 2 years of being gone because a weird mystical force has threatened Lyssa's life. This is the third book in the series. I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. Trigger warnings, there's a lot of death in this book. I think that's just kind of all that I can think of. And this one, death, some slut shaming. Because of yeah. But there's death in this one, slut shaming. I think that's all I can really think of. There is a bit of an age gap romance as well. I think Rose is 17, about to turn 18 in the book, or she just had turned 18, and the romancer is 24. So if you're not a fan of that in this paranormal romance kind of like genre, probably not the books for you. But again, I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy this book. It's not my favorite out of the set books that we've had so far. It definitely suffers from sequel syndrome. I know it's the third book, where there's 6 books, so this is like smack dab in the center. But all it did for like all of the book, the majority of the book really, is like wrap up old plot points from the first book that we saw, propel forward the other plot points from the second book that we saw, while also setting up for the rest of the other, I guess, like 3 books in the series. It's very slow, not a lot happens. What did happen was, I guess, like in the very last like quarter of the book, and even then it was very quick. It was very heartbreaking, don't get me wrong. I was like, oh my fucking god. But it was just like a lot of information in this part of the book, and then this last chunk here was all the action that they needed to propel you forward into the 4th book. Do I hate this book because it does suffer from that? No. I think what it's setting up for is going to be a very interesting setup, and I'm very intrigued to see where it's going to go in the next 3 books. But again, it's just a very slow setup, and I'm just like, it suffered from it a lot, because like the second book didn't suffer from it, but somehow the third book does, and it's just like, I sat there and was like, I'm missing something here. I'm missing something, and I don't know what I'm missing. But I really enjoyed it, and if you haven't read the series yet and are interested in it, I highly recommend it. It's good. It's like they don't make like this like 2007 to early 2010s like paranormal romances just don't exist out there anymore, and these hit right. They're just like, oh, they're just so good. I just love me a good paranormal romance. The next and last book that I read in January is actually a nonfiction, and my first nonfiction of the year, and that is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. This is an adult nonfiction novel chronicalizing Jennette McCurdy's life from very young to about present day, almost, I want to say. A little bit before present day, where she is like going through like the auditioning process of becoming a child star, Nickelodeon, her time in Nickelodeon, all while the backdrop of having her a very abusive and narcissistic mom kind of dictate her life. And because Jennette wants to make her mom happy, she got in the middle of all that as well. I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. Trigger warnings, there's emotional abuse, some physical abuse, lots of manipulation, very abusive parent, narcissistic parent, I would say, underage drinking, sexual acts, very inappropriate relationships with men, older men. What else can I say? Underage drinking, death of a parent, depictions of anxiety and depression and eating disorders. I think that's all I can think of off the top of my head. But this book deserves all the hype that it got. I think Lisa said it best when she read the book, is that it's almost like diary entries that we get to see of Jennette as she's looking back at it. Like it feels like Jennette has a very distinctive voice when she was younger, and I could almost like hear a younger child like reading me putting me in the scenarios that she was in, and then you jump and you can just hear her voice mature and change, but also it has like that tinge of like her looking back and reflecting on it, and you can just kind of sense like the adult Jennette almost like looking back at it with like a sense of like sadness as you're reading the book. It's very poignant, it's beautifully written, it is absolutely heartbreaking, and oh my god, Jennette is a phenomenal writer, and I just want her to have all the love and all the support that she ever needs in life moving forward. I think that all the things that she's gone through are horrific, but she put it in such a beautiful way that I just like I did not want to stop reading when I got to the book. Each chapter is like super short and succinct, but also gets a lot of the emotion and the pain and the confusion that she had right across. And like this book was a whirlwind of emotions. I didn't cry, surprisingly, but it was just such a whirlwind of emotions that I definitely did have like some anxiety and some like fear instilled in me from some of the things that she had described in this book. I highly recommend it if you're in the right space. Jennette McCurdy did a wonderful job of writing this book and sharing her story with all of us, to the way that it was almost like it was a little more like digestible. I think if she tried to make the book like thicker, or if she wrote it with a different voice, it probably wouldn't have had the impact that it would have had on a lot of people. Also, I'm just gonna say, I thought Jennette McCurdy had an A in it, like Jeanette, like Jeanette McCurdy, not Jennette. So very confusing for me. I don't know where my brain plopped the A in there, but yeah. I recommend this book. Probably going to be a favorite of mine for the year. It's such a, it was a time. It's just good. But that is it for the books I read in January. 5 books. It's not a bad start. And I also felt kind of slumpy. So I feel like if I wasn't slumpy, I might have read more books, because I did have one more book on this list that on my TBR that I didn't get a chance to read. So like, not bad, I'm not gonna lie. But if you guys want me to do more videos, or like if you guys have seen me like talk about what books I've received, purchased as an ARC, or purchased by myself, and you want me to do a review of that, let me know in the comments down below. I'll try to leave my hauls somewhere. I'll have a playlist of the hauls somewhere here. What else? But yeah, if you guys like these videos, let me know in the comments. If you read these books, let me know. Until next time, hit like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care. Bye.